I'll turn it over to Jesse. One more time for Jesse.
Thank you so much. And yeah, for me, like I'm CEO, co-founder of Amboss Technologies, and overall we work on Bitcoin payments for the most part. Maybe if I could just get a sense of who I'm talking to, who has sent a Bitcoin payment before? Okay, nice. And a Lightning payment? Okay. Who's run a Lightning node? Yes, okay, amazing. And actually, this is how I got connected with Koji and starting the Diamond Hands community, because, you know, like way back in 2021, we launched Amboss.space, and it was a Lightning Network Explorer. And we added this funny little feature in there where you could create your own community. Because one of the problems that you experience when you want to do a Lightning payment, you want to take a Bitcoin payment, you want to make it go faster. But in order to do that, basically you have to start using this thing called the Lightning Network. And in order to make it happen, you have to connect to other people. It's kind of creating almost like joint accounts to other people on the Lightning Network, and do it in a way that you don't have to trust them. But when I was just getting started, I was like, who do I connect to? I want to start a Lightning channel. Who else is running a Lightning node? And so just finding them was a big challenge. So us adding this community feature was actually really helpful. And I suddenly got all this traffic from Japan as we had just launched this site. And it was really exciting to see a community starting to take off that, you know, started off as Diamond Hands, has kind of evolved and taken on a whole new life. But basically, we've continued on from just being a Lightning Network Explorer, and so now we're really focused on operations. So I think most people that run a Lightning node, they're like, I don't know what I'm doing, and that's totally fine, because what we've learned more and more is it's not a problem for humans to do, because right now we've got over 14,000 nodes on the Lightning Network. So go ahead and make a strategic decision. I mean, I have trouble when there's more than 8 options for a menu, but when I have 14,000 options, there's a lot of mistakes to be made, and every single one costs a Bitcoin transaction. So basically, I want payments to work really, really well. So basically, how do we go about that? Some things that we already know. You know, Bitcoin's a great store of value. I think that has been established, and overall, I think this entire year has all been about Bitcoin treasury companies. You know, people storing more and more Bitcoin, but that's not the end of the story, because, you know, Bitcoin payments also work really well. I think, you know, when we have NFC payments, we've got tap to pay. And you can even do it with your smartphone. You like tap a card to your phone and receive money. I think that's amazing, but I can't do that with my credit card. Or, you know, as I've learned in Japan, most things are cash, which has great privacy features, but also, like, I was a little bit stunned. By the way, I flew in this morning, so I'm a little bit upside down. Please forgive the loopiness. Okay, but Bitcoin is a great payment system. And with these Bitcoin treasury companies, they've just been stacking Bitcoin, you know, more and more. Basically, it's off the charts. I can't believe that MicroStrategy is approaching, you know, 3% of all Bitcoin, but yet the Lightning Network down here, you know, right around 4,000 Bitcoin is being used to make instantaneous payments that are trustless, that are much better than any other payment that we've ever experienced, because it doesn't rely on credit and debt. It works instantly, globally, at very low cost. And I think it's a really special piece of technology that is kind of overlooked in the Bitcoin ecosystem. It's not about the price, it's about settlement and knowing that you've received money. So kind of looking at this problem of how do we go from this idea that Bitcoin is a store of value to Bitcoin is a medium of exchange? I don't know if you guys have heard about that before, but it's kind of a progression of the technology. And then the last phase would be Bitcoin is a unit of account where we're pricing things in Bitcoin. And I think that is, many years in the future, decades even. But right now, can I move Bitcoin faster? Can I make this value transfer network work? So the idea was that we wanted to do some incentive alignment and inspire Bitcoin holders to actually make Bitcoin a better payment system. So if we can do that, there was a question earlier about scalability. And when you introduce, Bitcoin, I think everybody knows the stat, you can do 7 transactions per second on Bitcoin. That's what the Bitcoin blockchain can hold in it. As soon as you start putting JPEGs and other things in there, maybe it'll be less than 7 transactions per second. But the idea is, well, after that limitation came up, I think a whole bunch of additional blockchains spun up. They're like, I'm going to fix it with my new blockchain. Well, the issue with that is you're just moving the problem to a new database. A blockchain is a database. Now you're introducing new databases. But what Lightning introduces is moving things off the blockchain and just using Bitcoin as that court, that settlement decider. And what that means is that Bitcoin transactions, because they're not on the blockchain, are essentially unbounded. You can do an unlimited amount of transactions per second because it actually scales horizontally. You introduce new Lightning nodes, you can process more payments. So in order to get Lightning to grow, we've got the technology that is scalable. Can we move the Bitcoin into it? And so with every Lightning payment that goes through, it actually pays the people that run these Lightning channels, these connections between peers that are denominated in Bitcoin. And so more payments translates to more revenue for those people that are running the infrastructure. And so this is kind of the incentive alignment. You can hold Bitcoin and then also earn from the payments. So that was behind our latest product that we launched about 3 months ago, and it's called Rails, and it's a routing and AI liquidity service. And so basically how it works is you put Bitcoin on a new Lightning node, and we'll spin this up for you so it remains in self-custody. Then enable the Rails service, which moves limited permissions over to Amboss to run operations for it. Because as we discussed earlier, running a Lightning node is not for humans. But then the third piece is access the yields from Lightning. Because now we're putting Bitcoin to work to support actual payments. So, of course, a whole bunch of people, say yield, we've seen that before. There's, BlockFi, there's Celsius, I guess. But what sets it apart is that there's no lending that's involved and no rehypothecation. So all the Bitcoin that's in there, well, it's yours, it's in self-custody, it's not being used for other purposes. So the yield comes from 2 sources. One is payment routing. So every payment that goes through your channels, your payments infrastructure, you get paid, a couple of Satoshis for each one. But then you can also create new connections. If you were to make an analogy here, if you're a power company and you're selling electrons to your customers, well, you can charge for each electron, but then additionally, well, you could charge for a new connection. I'm going to hook up your house to power, charge you $1,000, for example, and then I'm able to continue to charge for each electron. that I deliver. And that's basically what this liquidity leasing is. Open up a new Lightning connection, and that provides the ability for them to receive Lightning payments. So I said we launched this about 3 months ago, and we launched it in collaboration with Coin Corner. It was an exchange out of the Isle of Man, and Flux, which is a collaboration between Coin Corner and Axiom, which is Bitcoin VC fund. But overall, I see this as kind of the alignment between actually holding Bitcoin and benefiting Bitcoin's development as a medium of exchange. So, once we launched that, we got 2,700 Bitcoin that signed up, and over 300 signups. So basically, it introduced kind of a new problem. How do you manage all of that? How do you manage? So we also launched a stats page. So you can actually see this live, see the amount of Bitcoin that is like actually going into Rails and supporting, Bitcoin payments. So overall, we wanted to balance the market because that's the chief challenge for us now. So we've got supply side, we've got demand side, but all in all, the deal is we launched a new version of Magma, which is like a channel marketplace. So basically, if you want to start a business, you want to start receiving Lightning payments, this sets up, essentially a decentralized marketplace where you can, buy Lightning channels from other people, and it just kind of automates this entire process. So I skipped over a whole lot, but overall, I think what it does is it uses AI to determine what are the best connections for you to have, and does it so that anybody, so if you run a Lightning node, you can participate in this marketplace. I will pay you the yield to actually open that infrastructure. And in so doing, we have kind of a solid marketplace to actually see what is the value of Bitcoin as liquidity, as its utility for payments. But overall, okay, that was probably a deep dive on the technical side, but overall, I think the key message is that we want to align incentives between holders of Bitcoin and people that want to make Bitcoin a better payment system that is more ubiquitous. Because I think at the end of the day, we want to be able to use this money that we've brought to light. We want to use it every day, and I want to move the global economy onto that Bitcoin standard. All right, I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
All right, any questions for Jesse? English or Japanese? 質問ありますか？日本語でも英語でも。I have a question. Since you have like a really up close view of the difficulties of running Lightning nodes and probably have a pretty good idea what Lightning is capable of, what it's not capable of. What's your like big picture view, long-term big picture view of who's going to be using what layers of Bitcoin, or what that's like if we do see really widespread adoption, what kind of people and entities are going to be using the different levels of Bitcoin, and what that's going to look like?
Yeah, so I just put up on the screen a chart of, what are the different payment sizes, and is Lightning capable of actually doing those different payments? I think right now, Lightning is really good at doing micropayments. So we ran a simulation. This is called MaxFlow. This is the same algorithm that like traffic engineers use to determine how quickly you can get from point A to point B. The same calculation is used for internet service providers to make sure that they can actually handle the bandwidth. But here we have micropayments, the $1 to $10 range, and that's great for machine-to-machine payments. And I think Lightning does that really well today. If you want to dive deeper into that, there's a protocol called L402. But when it comes to reliability for everyday payments, so say, for example, I want to pay rent, or I want to, make a hotel reservation, buy airline tickets, the reliability across the network. And by the way, this is a very conservative, if anywhere to anywhere else in the Lightning Network, the reliability is going to go way down. And that's a consequence of actually not having enough Bitcoin in the system and not intelligently distributed, which was really the idea that we had behind Rails. Can I intelligently architect this payment system to be more usable? So that's how we're looking at it. If I make it more usable, then I can attract bigger and bigger players to actually start using Bitcoin as a payment system. And kind of where we would like to get to is large payments. I want interbank settlement. I want arbitrage payments to happen on this payment network. That would be incredibly disruptive. The largest Lightning channel that has ever existed was 14 Bitcoin. So, at around today's prices, $1.5 million that could have been settled immediately globally. But the limitation for Lightning channel sizes, it can't be any larger than 21 million. That's really the only limitation here. So at the protocol level, I think we've actually got a lot of capabilities, but the capital isn't there. It's been too complex for people. So that's where we've stepped in. But I think this is where we're at. And when the Bitcoin price goes up, I've got 2 different years here. When the Bitcoin price goes up, we become more capable of sending larger payments, just because grew. Anyways.
Something that came to mind when you referenced in which case, what would happen in terms of an 80%, which can be somewhat standard.
Oh, absolutely. On that front, I'm kind of looking forward to it because what we actually have seen is the Lightning capacity in Bitcoin terms has actually been going down. It's actually been trending, from 2021 down, and only recently has it started to tick back up. And it's really because the yields have spiked. I think it was about a month ago, Cash App's recent announcement that they were earning 9.7% yield on their, block node. That really turned some heads at, the Bitcoin Vegas conference. And that was legit. You could actually earn about 1% for all the payments that we're going through. So still 3 times better than Visa. But overall, I think folks were making a killing just running a Lightning node if they understood those markets. Sorry, I lost. What was the rest of the question?
Well, that was my initial question, but I did have an original of, as you read the white paper and you come down to the part where it's, everything's mined. So there has to be a transition to, what's the word? I guess fees, paying incentives. So incentives inevitably go to nodes, to transactions, ultimately speaking. But this Lightning companies like Cash App, this company in specific, what you're trying to say is that they're trying to get ahead of all that by saying, let's get into the node transfer fee business now.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, we know that the Bitcoin blockchain cannot hold all of our transactions. But the Bitcoin blockchain could be full of Lightning channel opens and channel closes, and that is far more scalable.
But what I want to refer to is that eventually all those mining nodes will transfer to transaction nodes. Will that affect the capacity, or is there a difference between a node generating Lightning transactions and a Bitcoin mining capacity of a higher GPU, things like that? Or there's not much of a difference?
Yeah, they're very different technologies. I mean, like a Bitcoin mining rig, which is like an ASIC, specific generated circuits. But for a Lightning node, it's actually managing a database of all of your connections and the records there.
It's not just my laptop, whatever I'm running with it. No.
It's operating a side ledger that is, private to you and your peers.
In that sense, what would be the on and off ramp for me if I am storing or utilizing my Bitcoin to assist with the Lightning Network, but I need to make liquid?
Yeah. What's kind of funny is people always say locked in the Lightning Network, which is technically accurate. Okay, because it's using time locks. But from a liquidity standpoint, it's actually in a more liquid state. I can take Bitcoin in Lightning and spend it faster than I could for a regular Bitcoin transaction. When I got started messing around with Lightning, it was because I paid a $60 transaction fee because I was so excited about Bitcoin and I wanted to buy a gift for my parents. I bought a knife on overstock.com. It was one of the only places that accepted Bitcoin. They had a 15-minute timer. Your Bitcoin needs to arrive within these 15 minutes. And I had to pay a $60 transaction fee to make it happen. Well, it didn't happen because who knows when the next block is going to get mined. It's 10 minutes on average, but you don't really know. So basically what they had to do was they had to refund me the Bitcoin. And they're like, okay, now try again. I'm going to pay another $60 transaction fee. And I was like, okay, Bitcoin payments. I love the idea of Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin payments issue, it needs fixing. And that's when I focused on Lightning, because I was like, this is already a problem. That was 2017. Yeah. It's even more important now that we actually figure out payments.
You would say you found Lightning.
Yeah.
So then Amboss is more of a, let me help you with your Lightning node.
Yeah. Yeah. So we provide operations support. So.
Nice.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you guys so much.